Hello Bible class and welcome back. So last week Yvonne was talking about the enemy, Satan and his army, and that his goal is to do anything in his power, which is very little compared to God, and prevent us from reaching our goal and being the best that we can be. How does he do this? Well, he tempts us, and he's an expert at it, and he's been doing it for a long time. And he waits until we are at our most vulnerable to do this, just like Jesus was when he was in the desert. And this leads us nicely into what we're thinking about this morning, because when we give in to temptation, we sin. Now, the word sin may seem odd to modern people and sound dated, as it's a biblical term. It's been around for a long time, so it's often ignored and thought of as ancient or backwards, which is sad because the writers of the Bible have so much knowledge about the word sin. The story is told of an RE teacher asking the class one day, "What is sin?" And a pupil's hands shot up in the air and responded, "Sin equals opposite divided by hypotenuse, sir." SOHCAHTOA. You can even check with my maths teacher. Sin is not always thought of in the biblical context in the world that we live in today. Folks, apologies, I've had to come in. I was up against a Kango hammer out there and a cordless drill, so hopefully the living room will be a bit quieter as Maisie's still sleeping and Sophia's playing in the conservatory. So the word sin in the Old Testament in Hebrew is kata, and this means to fail or miss the goal. Remember what I said earlier, that Satan's goal is to prevent us from reaching ours. Well, in the Bible, sin is a failure to fulfill a goal. But what is the goal? Well, page 1 in the Bible, we are told everyone is made in the image of God. They are a being who represents the Creator and worthy of respect. So when we look at the world in this way, sin is a failure to love God and others when we treat people in a way that they don't deserve. And we see this in the Ten Commandments. Half of them show us ways we fail to love God, and the other half name how we fail to love people. In the New Testament, the Greek word for sin is hamartia, and the Apostle Paul describes hamartia as a power or force that rules humans. In his words, we are slaves to sin. He even says sin lives in us, that the things I don't want to do, that's what I do. The picture that the Bible paints of the effects of sin in this world isn't very pretty. It's impacted our relationship with God, our relationship with others, and creation itself. But that's why the story of Jesus is such good news. He did not fail to love God and others, that is, he did not sin. Yet he took responsibility for humanity's history of failings. He lived for others and died for their sins, and he was raised from the dead to offer them the gift of his life that covers them for their failures. Peter writes, "He committed no sin, yet he carried our sins in his body on the cross so that we might die to our sins and live to do what is right." Ever since the first sin in the Garden of Eden, God has been working out his plan to restore things to how they were in the beginning. Through a relationship with Jesus, we can become part of God's family. That was the first part. And the second part then is when he returns, which ties into my first talk, everything will be made new. I'm not sure how you have found isolation. Maybe temptation has been harder to flee from and you're struggling with a certain sin. Can I encourage you to take it to the Lord in prayer and spend time with him in his word and in his presence to seek forgiveness and find strength you need to live for him.